Good morning to all of you. Whether the slide is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's start. I have told that there are two principal technologies or methodologies to develop test cases for object-oriented software testing. One, by using generic test strategy, which we have seen in the last class, by using what kind of test requirements we can develop for the test cases. So that will different for different UML diagrams that we have discussed in the last class. Today we'll take up the second methodology, that means how to design test cases by using some test design pattern. I hope you have read somewhere else about what simply patterns, or you can say design pattern. Now we'll today discuss about test design pattern. So what is pattern? Let's little bit see a few minutes. Then we can go for this test design pattern. Then how to develop the test suite. So what is the pattern? That design pattern? Let's see. A design pattern is a generalized or reusable solution to a recurring problem. So if there are somewhat you can say common type of problems, some recurring problem, then what will the solution that can be reused again and again? What is the generalized solution which can be reused? It is called a design pattern. So design pattern is a generalized solution which can be reused again and again to a commonly recurring problem. This is called a test design pattern. So it is based on common sense and some good practices. This normal. I am now discussing normal design pattern. So this normal design pattern, it is based on what some of the common sense and some good practices that you are following, that you have followed in your last projects. This design pattern, it provides a concise description of three important things. What are the common elements, or what are the common problems? Then context of the common problem. Then what are the solutions? So if we'll explain it, it will be consisting of four actual components. One, the common problem or the common element. Then the context of the common problem. Then the essential requirement for a solution, or what is the solution for the common problem. Then the context of the solution. So these four components are there in a normal design pattern. If you have seen any examples, we are running out of time. In Rajimal's book, you will see several design patterns are given, explained very nicely. Such as the most common design pattern is expert pattern, then packet pattern, proxy, MVC, and so on. There are many common design patterns out there. So you may please read any book, including Rajimal's book or any other software engineering book, where you can see on these design patterns. Once you understand design patterns, because this is a part of software architecture or software design, so I am not going to cover here. I have already told where it is available. Please read that thing. Then after coming to knowing this design pattern, we can go for test design pattern. So now what is test design pattern? I have already told you what is design pattern. It is a solution to a commonly recurring problem. Similarly, this is the relationship between the design pattern and the programming, or the solution in terms of programming. So in which way the design patterns are related to programming, in the same way the test design patterns are related to testing. Why we are going for design patterns? For some solution to commonly recurring problems, and the solution in terms of writing programs. In this way, design patterns are related to programming. In the same way, the test design patterns are related to testing. That means for some of these common testing problems, what reusable, generalized test design patterns you can develop to design the test cases to handle the testing problems. So test design patterns are same way related to testing. What the software design patterns, or in which way the software design patterns are related to programming. Okay. So just like that, we have seen there are several design patterns such as expert pattern, facade, MVC, proxy, and so on. Similarly, there are several design patterns are available with the different scope of testing. So let's see a few of them. So the patterns developed under different scope of testing are as follows. If you want to go for method level scope, then the concern pattern is polymorphic message test. If you want to go for class level scope, the concerned example pattern is modal class test or MCT. If you want to go for reusable components, the scope is reusable components, then the example pattern is abstract class test. If you are wanting to go for subsystem level of scope, then you should go for round trip scenario test. If you want to perform testing at the integration level or integration testing, you should go for the CIP, collaboration integration pattern. If the scope is at application level, you should go for EUC, called as extended use case pattern. If the scope is at the regression testing level, then the concern pattern is retest within firewall. These are some of the commonly testing patterns or test design patterns available. We are running out of time. We may take one or two at best, and others you can similarly look at. So let's take the first one, that is based on the application scope. If the scope is application scope, then the concern pattern is extended use case pattern. You can use use cases. I have already told you use cases in where you are using them in use case diagram. So how the extended use case pattern can be used to develop test design patterns for designing or test cases at the application. Okay. So the extended use case test pattern, let's see what are some of the difficulties with use cases. If you are using use cases, some of the common difficulties are no variable declarations are required, because you are writing only the use cases. Those who have drawn use cases, you can see use cases means you are putting use case diagram means you are putting the use cases. Use cases are nothing but the high level functional requirements, and who are the actors, then how they are related. That's what you are showing in use case diagram. So no explicit variable definitions are required. No business rules are required. There are no input-output constants in use case diagrams. Narrative, because might have known after drawing the use case diagram, you have to explain all the scenarios in a text, in narrative text, and that narrative text can be ambiguous. Those are some of the difficulties they may be present with use case diagram. In a test-ready model, we need to define all input-output relationships. But so I have told these are the difficulties in use case diagram. But if you are going for a test-ready model, in a test-ready model, we need to specify the following things. We have to define all the input-output relationships. We have to also define all the operational variables, which are not supported by the use cases, but in a model which is ready for testing, in a test-ready model, we need to specify these two things. Now let's see what is the intent of EUC. So the intent of EUC is to develop a model or to represent or to construct a model for the input-output relationships present in a use case design in a decision table. So what are the relationships present, what are the IO relationships present in a use case that you can model, that you can represent using a decision table. This is the intent of EUC. So the intent of EUC is as follows. Model the IO relationships present in a use case using a decision table. And once you develop the decision table, you can generate the test cases. I have already told you decision table based testing while discussing black box testing. So once you can represent the IO relationships in the form of a decision table, then it will be easier for you to develop the test cases. That's what I'm saying. It then becomes possible, it then becomes easy to develop tests by considering the different specific inputs for a use case and the corresponding expected results. This already we have discussed while discussing about generation of test cases using decision table or decision table based testing. So we'll not discuss much in detail here. I will take an example. Unless the test points are systematically selected based on a use case, implicit constraints and relationship, all fundamental relationships won't be exercised. But I'm saying this again, unless the test points they are systematically selected, you have to select the test points very systematically based on the use case, implicit constraints and relationship. If you will not select the test points very systematically, what will be the problem? Then all the fundamental relationships may not be exercised. Some of the fundamental relationships will be exercised, will be covered, and some of the fundamental relationships may be skipped. For example, suppose there is a use case, this example I was saying also in the last class, there is a use case pair fees, and this pair fees is a generalization relationship, I have already told you. A use case pair fees, it can be generalization of pay by credit card and pay by cash and pay by internet banking, pay by debit card, etc. So use case pay fees can be generalization of pay by credit card and pay by cash use cases, for example. So if you will not systematically select the test points, then it might be possible you might have tested for this relationship pay fees and pay by credit card. You may skip the relationship between pay fees and pay by cash and pay fees by pay by internet banking and so on. There's a possibility that you may skip. That's why you have to set them, you have to select them systematically. So unless the test points are systematically selected based on a use case, implicit constraints and relationships, all the fundamental relationships may not be exercised. So we have to systematically select the test points based on the use case, implicit constraints and relationships. Let's say about the UC fault model. What kind of box can the UC help detect? Two important types of box UC fault model can detect. Number one is the domain box, the domain related box, and the logic box. For example, if a customer registers in a supermarket system, the domain error could be that you have given incorrect PIN code. So that's an example of a domain bug or domain error. And logic bug means, an example here we have given that the sales registered against an invalid customer code. So that is, this one particular customer code doesn't exist, but against that code you have registered the sales amount. So that's a logic error. So similar examples you can consider for student information system, for library information system, and for banking information system, and so on. So let's see some more about the UC fault model. The generic system scope faults. Let's see some of the generic system scope faults for the UC fault model. Some of the generic system scope faults are incorrect output. The output it is produced is wrong, it is incorrect. Abnormal termination. The logic or the loop is terminated abnormally. Inadequate response time. The response time taken by your system or program is inadequate, not acceptable. Some of the capabilities, some of the functionalities are omitted, or your system is giving some extra capability, extra functionality which you do not want. So these are some of the generic system scope faults. An extended use case model consists of the following. Number one, a complete inventory of the operational variables. You have to describe all the operational variables associated with your system. Then a complete specification of domain constraints for each operational variable. For every operational variable, is there any domain constraint? Example, I was saying yesterday that age must be greater than 18 if you want to have internet banking or so, or money transfer to internet banking. So a complete specification of all the domain constraints for each operational variable must be specified. an operational relation for each use case. For every use case, what is the operational relation? The relative frequency of use case, which may be optional. That means this use case, how much frequently this happens. So in case of library information system, the different use cases are issue book, return book, withdraw book, renew book, etc. So for example, this renew book, what should the frequency? How many times this renew book can be done? That means if a student, how many times he can use that renew book. It's not that every time one book is there, he will only renew it. Where are the others will go? So you must put some constraints. So the relative frequency of each use case, which is optional. So these are the components which extended use case model consists of these 4 components. Okay, we may see in detail with some examples. Now let's see this UC test procedure. How can design test cases using this extended use case pattern? A test suite is developed in 4 steps. So a test suite is developed in 4 steps by using UC. Number 1, first identify all the operational variables. Then number 2, define the domains of the operational variables. What are the domains of those operational variables? Then develop the operational relations and finally develop test cases. So based on these 4 components, here 4 steps are written. First you have to identify the operational variables, then define the domains of the operational variables, then develop the operational relations, then develop the test cases. Then let's see, number 1 step first, identify the operational variables. So first step is identify the operational variables. The operational variables, what do you mean by operational variables? Operational variables are the factors which vary from one scenario to another scenario. So which factors they vary from one scenario to another scenario, we call them as operational variables. So operational variables, these are the variables or these are the factors which vary from one scenario to other scenario. Then determine the different system responses. So that means when you are changing these variables, the system response will also be different. Determine the different system responses. Here some hints are given for those operational variables. The operational variables may include the explicit input and output. Okay, the operational variables may include the explicit inputs and outputs. The environmental conditions which result in significantly different behavior. That means under which conditions the system is producing say different kind of results or different behaviors. Environmental conditions which result in significantly different behavior. Then abstractions of the state of the system. So I have already told you a system may pass through different states. So what are the different abstractions of the state of the systems? That also may be included under operational variables. So first step is identify all those operational variables. The next step is define the domains of the operational variables. What would be possible domains of each variable? Define the domains of the operational variables. The domains are developed by defining the valid and invalid values for each variable. So how can we define the domain of the operational variables? The domains of the operational variables, they are developed by defining what are the valid values for each variable and what are the invalid values for each variable. The example I had already told, like the domain variables. So like age is greater than 18 means all the values greater than 18, they are valid values. So and the values less than 18, they are all invalid values. Okay, in this way the domains are developed by defining the valid and invalid values for each variable. Then develop the operational relation, if any operational relation exists. The operational variables may determine distinct classes of system responses. So these operational variables, they may determine the distinct classes of the system responses. What we have to do? we have to express them in the form of a decision table. Okay, so we have to express these operational variables or the responses in the form of a decision table. When all the conditions in a row are true, the expected action is to produce. Isn't it? Decision table we have already discussed earlier. So when all the conditions in a row they are true, then the expected action is to be produced. Final step is develop the test cases. So every variant is made true once and false once. We have already seen in case of decision table how many variables are there. So one time you have to make true, next time false. So every variant is made true once and false once. You can use test oracle where the expected results are typically developed by inspection. So that's called a test oracle. You may develop a test oracle where the expected results they are typically developed by inspection. So in this way, we can use this EUC to develop the test cases. Now we'll take a complete example. Here you can see that first thing I have to identify what are the use cases. In this example, I have taken few use cases like establish a session, then cash withdrawal, then cash replenishment. Of course, these are the use cases related to some ATM. So these are the use cases: establish session, then cash withdrawal, then cash replenishment. Who are the actors? Establish session is related with the actor bank and customer. Cash withdrawal is also what dealt by the bank and customer, and cash replenishment here it is performed by ATM operator with some armed guard. And these are the possible input-output combinations. What are the possible input-output combinations? It has given, like somebody has given a wrong pin is entered once, and then what you can say, this corrected pin entered, and display menu like this. These are the possible input-output combinations. Similarly, next what possible combinations could be: pin is okay, customers bank net it urgents, then display try again, some problem in the net, so display the try again. Another possibility that pin is okay, customers accounts are closed, the customer has already closed the account, then display that go to your bank or call your bank. Another could be that some stolen card is inserted. Your card has been stolen, somebody has inserted, but he has given the valid PIN entered. So then what will there? If you have already notified to the bank, then the ATM will automatically return the card inside, something like that. So in this way, for different use cases, the different possible input-output combinations are shown. Okay. In this way, I have represented the different use cases in the form of a just table. Then we have identified what are the operational relations for this established session use case. There is a use case you can see established session. So what are the operational relations? Like these are the different variants. The card pin. So what are the variables? Operational variables are your pin number, then the entered pin. So one is your what is the pin for the card? Once somebody has entered what pin you have entered. Then customer account status. Sorry, customer bank response, customer account status. So these are the variables and these are the expected result. You know, test case means what? Mainly the input and the expected result. So these operational variables are the input and these are the expected results. So first we have given card pin, suppose it is invalid, and entered pin, it will say that don't care condition. So if card pin is invalid, then whatever pin you can give. So I have given DC, don't care condition, and customer bank paper, whatever DC, what is the asset? Insert on ATM card, because this pin is invalid. So response is that insert an ATM card, and what is the action? Action is that eject the card. Similarly, card pin, if it is valid and entered pin, it matches with the card pin, then customer bank response is that bank it acknowledges, and the customer account status that suppose your bank is, you have already closed your account earlier. Then what the message will say? Contact your bank, and again the card will be rejected. Third one is your card is valid and it completely matches with the card pin. Bank acknowledges and customer status, bank account status is open. Then what should be the expected output? You can select a transaction and card action is none. It will there. So like that, all those different possible relations are shown. The ATM operational relations for the established session use case are shown. These are the test cases. Test cases is nothing but what? The inputs and the outputs. Here the inputs are those operational variables, output is the expected result. So in this way, by using these extended use case. So in the first table, I have shown the extended use cases, the concerned actors and the possible IO combinations. By using this, you can prepare. You can prepare the ATM operational relations for each of the use case. Here we have shown the operational relations for established session use case. Similarly, you can write down the operational relations in the form of a table for the cash withdrawal use case as well as the cash replenishment use case. Okay. So I have told you here how this extended use case it can be used to design the test cases. By using those 4 steps, here you have developed the test cases, and here you can see the first one is this all the use cases associated with the actor and the possible IO combinations, and in the second table, this is a what you can see. This is a table showing the test cases by following the 4 steps. Obviously, the test cases must include the input and output, and the expected output. Input is here is all the operational variables, and expected and the output is the expected results here. So similarly, the assignment for you that develop the test cases for the other 2 use cases, cash withdrawal and cash replacement. Please do develop the test case in this format and show me and send upload in this your MS team by tomorrow. Okay, so this is the assignment for today. So next one is MCT, which is called as modal class test pattern, and its its context I have already told you here. MCT is used for what? Just look at quickly. MCT is used for class scope. That means if you are performing testing at the class level scope, then you can use modal class test pattern or MCT pattern, modal class test pattern. So let's quickly look at this MCT pattern. I already told you we cannot go in detail. We'll only see a few of the things. Some classes, they can accept any message in any state, possible. There are some classes which can accept any message in any state, but there are some other classes, but others, they restrict based on the past messages received or the current values. A modal class, first we have to see, before going to modal class test pattern, we have to know what is a modal class. Then we will go for modal class test pattern. A modal class is a special class which places the domain constraints as well as sequence constraints while accepting messages. So modal class is a special class which can place the domain constraint as well as sequence constraint while accepting the messages. What is a domain constraint? For example, an object of class account. Again, let's take this banking example. An object of class account will not accept a withdrawal message if the balance is less than 0. This is a domain constraint, of course. So if the balance is no balance or negative balance, then your system should not accept any withdrawal message. Otherwise, you will customer it will going on withdrawing money with negative balances. So one domain constraint is that an object of class A account, it cannot accept a withdrawal message. It should not accept a withdrawal message if the balance is less than 0. The example of sequence constraint is that in the frozen state, an account object can accept a credit or a debit message only after an unfreeze message. So if your account has been frozen, it has been frozen by the system administrator or the bank manager. In the frozen state, an account object can only accept a credit or debit message so after an unfreezing message. So first, the bank admin or your bank manager, he has to unfreeze this state. He has to make it active. Previously it was idle. Now he has to make it active. After that, the system can accept or reject or accept a credit or the debit message. So here there is a sequence constraint. First, since it is in idle state, it has to be first made active, then only it can accept any credit or the debit message. In the frozen state, an account object can accept a credit or debit message only after an unfreeze message is executed. Okay. So this modal class, it is a special type of class which will place the domain constraints as well as the sequence constraints while accepting the messages. I have given 2 examples of domain constraint and sequence constraint. Okay. So see, here I have taken a state transition diagram or a state chart diagram for class account. Very simple example. Since the state chart diagram, I have shown the different states here. Initially, you are going to the bank, you have to open the account. So the account is in open state or new state. Then another state could be overdrawn. So that means you have, some of the banks are there. If you are having minimum balance something, they may give some extra amount as the loan. So it's overdrawn state, even if you don't have sufficient amount of balance. And you might have seen what SBI is having some monthly average balance or something. Then if the monthly average balance always it is 40,000, 50,000 something, you can take some more money even if it is not there. So then we say that the overdrawn state. Another state is frozen state or idle state. Okay. So frozen state, another is inactive state, another is closed state. So the different transitions are shown. I can show what one example here, like this is the open state. When the manager has made it freeze, suppose your ATM card is stolen, or somebody has withdrawn your money from your account, then the bank manager can freeze it. So then from this open state, the state may be changed to frozen state, where the manager will especially issue a command like freeze. And again, here at that state only you can check the balance, because now it is frozen. You cannot perform any debit or credit operations. When you will perform debit or credit operations, when the bank manager again will unfreeze, you will send an unfreeze message, then the state will be changed from frozen to open. Similarly, you can see that open, it can go to inactive. How? If the current year minus last year is greater than 5, that means last 5 years you have not made any transaction, then the state will be changed from open to inactive. And in inactive, again you can just only check the balance, but you cannot again perform any withdraw or deposit. And then inactive, what you can do, again it can be actually active. Here we have not shown. That means again it can go to this open state when the bank manager will do something. Else what can be done, it can be closed. You can settle the account, perform all the formalities, close the account, so the account state will be closed. Now in open state, so if you want, another arrow can be joined from inactive to open. If you want to again activate your account, so go to the bank manager, apply, so that you will again active, so that again it will go to the open state. Then you can perform any debit or credit operations. See, This credit debit operation we have shown here. In open state, you can make what any deposits, you can make any debits. So the self loops are there. You can also check the balance like this. And I will go to the overdrawn state. If the debit balance, if the balance is less than 0 and still we are debiting, we are withdrawing money. If bank has given you special permission, then the state will change from open to overdrawn. And from overdrawn also you can credit, you can deposit the balance like this. And in overdrawn state you can also debit because bank has given special permission. You can also make the credit, you can deposit the amount, you can check the balance. So in this way we have shown a sample state transition diagram for the class account. Okay. Now let's see this MCT fault model. A class may fail to implement its state model in 5 ways. It may fail to implement its state in the model. It may fail to implement its state model in 5 ways. What are the 5 ways that it may fail to implement? Number 1 is missing transition. That means a valid message is rejected in a valid state. Okay, a valid message is rejected in a valid state. Open state you can do any number of debit or credit. In open state you can go to freeze. Suppose what happens in open state you are not able to make credit or debit. That means deposit or withdraw. That means a valid message is rejected in a valid state. Similarly, suppose in the open state the bank manager is sending a freezing message and the system is not accepting. So this is a valid state and a valid message, but the system is not accepting. So this is a fault. So missing transition means a valid message is rejected in a valid state. Incorrect action means a wrong response for an accepting state and valid message. So you are getting a wrong response for an accepting state and valid message. This is called as incorrect action. There might be invalid resultant state. A message results in transition to a wrong state. You are sending a message which results in transition to a wrong state. For example, open, and you are sending the freezing message. Instead of going to here, if you will apply a freeze message, the state should be changed to frozen state. What it is, the state is changed to inactive state, which is wrong. So this is an example where this freeze message, after applying freeze message, the state should be transformed or converted to frozen, but it is moving to inactive state. So this is wrong. So this is the third example. That invalid resultant state, a message results in transition to a wrong state, invalid state. You are doing something so that you are performing some message, sending some message so that an invalid state is produced, a state which is not invalid. So here, what you can see there, open, and you are seeing your balance, you are regularly making the transactions, but still it is moving to inactive state. Inactive state should be arised only when the current year minus last year is greater than 5. Last 5 years you have not done any transaction. But even if every year you are doing transaction, it is moving to the inactive state. That means a wrong state, invalid state. An invalid state is produced. Okay, this is invalid state. Invalid state means an invalid state is produced. Then you say snake path. A snake path allows a wrong message to be accepted. What do you mean by snake path? Snake path means it allows a wrong message to be accepted. So somewhere else, a wrong message, it is accepting. For example, what you can say, wrong message, and like this, if balance is equal to 0, then it is closed. That means then you have to close the account. But if balance is not equal to 0, till then it is closed. So that means this is a wrong message. Balance is not equal to 0. How it can be closed? So when a wrong message is accepted, we say that it is a snake path. A snake path allows a wrong message to be accepted. Okay. Now let's quickly look at what is the MCT test strategy. The behavior of a class is represented using the state model. So the first step is You have to represent the behavior of the class using the state chart diagram. The behavior of a class is represented using state model. Then generate the transition tree from the state model, construct a tree called the generate the transition tree. Then perform conditional transition test. Okay. Then perform the conditional transition test. Then tabulate the events and actions along each path to form test cases. So you have to tabulate the different events and the actions along each of the path of the tree to form the test cases, to design the test cases. Deliberately perform some illegal transitions and perform sneak path test. Okay, so deliberately, in order to say that how robust your system is, deliberately perform some illegal transitions and perform sneak path test. Okay, this is the MCT test strategy. So I have already told you, first step is behavior represent the behavior of the class using the state model. That example I have already shown you. This is the state model. Second step is generate the transition tree. Let's see how can draw the transition tree. So second step is MCT transition tree. Construct the MCT transition tree. For each transition out of the root state, a branch is drawn to a node that represents the resultant state. Okay. For each transition out of the root state, what you do? Draw a branch. A branch is drawn to a node that represents the resultant state. Then this step is repeated for each resultant state node. So for every resultant state node, this step is repeated. A node is marked terminal or the end node if no transition to a new state exists. Okay, so a node you can call it as terminal node or end node if no transition is there to a new state. A node is marked terminal if no transition to a new state yet to be done exists. Each branch in the tree, which you can call an event path, becomes a test case. So if you traverse each branch present in the tree or an event path, ultimately it becomes a test case. Okay. So this is an example of this MCT transition tree. For this example, this is the state chart diagram. For this state chart diagram, I have drawn the MCT, the tree here. For example, you can see what is the root node here. Obviously, open is the root node. After open, then only you can go inside. So initial input is open. The command open. So open is the initial state or the root state. From that are the branches and create this tree. Then from root state, from this open, where you can go? See, from open, you can go to what step? You can see from open, you can itself go to open by making credit debit messages. From open, you can go to withdrawn. From open, you can go to frozen. From open, you can go to inactive. From open, you can go to closed. Everywhere you can go. So I have drawn accordingly. From open, you can go to open by performing credit operation, debit operation, check balance operation. From open, you can also go to overdrawn state. From open, you can go to frozen state. From open, you can go to inactive state. From open, you can go to closed state. The above things are the conditions or the operations. You can go from open to open how? By performing debit operation, credit operation, or balance operation. From open, you can go to overdrawn state how? By performing a debit operation where the balance is less than 0. From open, you can go to frozen state by performing the freeze operation. From open, you can go to inactive state if the current year minus last year is greater than 5. From open, you can go to closed state if your balance is equal to 0 and performing the close operation. Similarly, now the next level you do these are the resultant states. From resultant state where you can go to overdrawn. Let's see. From overdrawn, you can see you can go to overdrawn itself. You can go to open state. Okay, those things I have shown here. From overdrawn, you can go to overdrawn itself. You can go to open. From frozen, where you can go? From frozen, you can go itself frozen, as well as from frozen state, you can go to open. That's what I have shown here. From frozen, you can go to frozen as well as open. From inactive, where you can go? From inactive, you can see you can go to itself inactive as well as you can go to closed. So that's what I have shown here. From what inactive, you can go to itself inactive by performing check balance operation, as well as you can go to close state by performing the settle operation. So in this way, the second step we have seen that generate the transition tree, then perform the conditional transition test. Okay, then perform the conditional transition test, then tabulate the different events and actions along each path present in the tree to form the test cases, and finally you can perform some illegal transitions deliberately and perform the snake path test. So this is the tree. Then the MCT conditional transition test, perform MCT conditional transition test. Each conditional transition is analyzed to identify the additional test cases. So wherever conditions are there, you can see here one condition: if current year minus last year is greater than 5. Another condition: if balance is greater than it is less than 0, then even if you can perform debit, this will lead to overdrawn state. Like this, all those conditions you investigate. For each each conditional transition. First, each conditional transition is analyzed to identify the additional test cases. Then for each conditional transition, develop a truth table for the variables in the condition. So I'm repeating again. Each conditional transition analyzed to identify the additional test cases required. For each conditional transition, what you do, construct a truth table, develop a truth table for the variables present in the condition. For example, in this condition, B is greater than 0, the variable is B. In this condition current year minus last year, so and the balance something, so current year and last year, they are the conditions. So like this, and if B is equal to 0, so B is the variable. Okay. So for each conditional transition, develop a truth table for the variables present in the condition. And once the truth table is developed, then you can easily construct the test cases. After developing a truth table for the variables present in the condition, then develop an additional test case for each entry in the truth table that is not already exercised. So if any entry in the truth table that is not exercised, then you can develop additional test cases. So in this way, you can perform MCT. You can design test cases using this MCT pattern. One more step I have already told you at the end: perform snake path testing. That means deliberately perform some illegal transitions and perform this snake path test. So let's see this, the MCT snake path test. Perform MCT snake path test. What is the snake path? I have already told you. Snake path is a bug that allows an illegal message to be accepted. So due to some mistake, an illegal message is going to be accepted. That is the snake path, resulting in illegal transition. So if this is illegal message is accepted, automatically, obviously, it will result in an illegal transition. Since snake path is a bug that allows an illegal message to be accepted, resulting in an illegal transition. The illegal transition is present when a valid state of the collaboration under test, it accepts a message not specified for that state. So let's see, when an illegal transition is present. An illegal transition is present when a valid state of the collaboration under test, it accepts a message which is not specified for that state. Then we say that an illegal transition is present. The illegal messages, they result in an illegal transition. Whenever you are sending some illegal message, they result in an illegal transition. So you have to perform MCT snake path test, deliberately give some illegal messages, deliberately perform some illegal transitions, allow some illegal transitions, and perform snake path test. So this is how you can use this MCT pattern for generating test cases. Okay. So let's take a small example for this MCT sneak path. To test sneak paths, deliberately send illegal messages. For example, in the overdrawn state, messages open, freeze, close, etc. can lead to possible sneak paths. Go to overdrawn state. This is the overdrawn state. You see what actions you can perform? Only credit, debit. These two actions you can perform, credit and debit. What you do, sorry, balance also. Credit, debit, balance you can perform in the overdrawn state. What are the illegal transactions here? Illegal transactions could be what other states we can say, like freeze message. Freeze you cannot do at overdrawn state. Then this close, this is also is not possible at the overdrawn state. So two examples I have shown, freeze and close. Deliberately you apply freeze and close operation at the overdrawn state. See whether your system is accepting or not, whether there is a state change. Then obviously there is some mistake in your problem. So that means you are performing a sneak path test. So this is an example of sneak path test here. You know that in overdrawn state only allowable operations are credit, debit, and balance. And freeze, close are not allowed. But deliberately you apply freeze operation and close operation at the overdrawn state. See whether there is a state change. If there is a state change, then there is some problem in your system. Try to correct it. This is how you can perform this sneak path test for this example. In the, for example, in the overdrawn state, the messages like open, freeze, close, etc., which are not allowed. If you have performed them, they can lead to possible sneak paths. To confirm that no sneak paths exist, attempt each type of illegal message. So in order to ensure that no sneak paths exist, please try to apply each type of illegal message. Whatever, accepting all the legal messages, apply all the illegal messages in order to ensure that no sneak paths exist. The expected response should be what? The expected response should be the message should be rejected. There should not be any state change. The message should be rejected. Also, the state of the object should be unchanged after rejecting the illegal message, isn't it? Since the message is rejected, so the state of the object should also be unchanged after rejecting the illegal message. This is how you can perform this and sneak path testing. Okay. So we are running out of time. These two are quite. We have already discussed two patterns. So that is extended use case pattern and model class test pattern, MCT pattern. So we are running out of time. But in the slides, I have uploaded two more patterns such as CIP and those things I have put. So have a look at them. Okay. So this is about. So this you can read yourself a little bit. Collaboration integration pattern. Again, it is applied at the integration level. Please read yourself. Okay. And then comes actually just look at that some of the integration strategies. There are two integration strategies are applicable for testing of object-oriented software. One is thread-based testing, another is use-based testing. Thread means a thread consists of all the classes which are required to respond to a single external input. Here, each class is unit tested, then each thread is exercised. Okay, so in thread-based integration testing strategy, first each class is unit tested, then each thread is exercised. What is a thread? A thread consists of all the classes needed to respond to a single external input. In use case based integration testing, for object-oriented testing, what happens? The use case based integration, it begins by testing the classes which use the services of none of the other classes or a few classes. Okay. So this testing strategy, this integration testing strategy, it begins by testing the classes which does not use the services of any other classes. It starts by testing the classes that use the services of none or a very few of other classes. In the next level, the classes which use the first group of classes, they are tested, followed by the classes that use the second group and so on. This process is repeated. This is something about the use case based integration strategy. Okay. Something more, if possible, we'll see in some of the next classes. Now, quickly, I am just telling some of the research challenges. Those who are interested to do MTech thesis or PhD thesis on this area. So, some of the research challenges I have put here. Number one, testing based on pre-code artifacts. This is a current day research strategy. The pre-code artifacts are the design documents, requirements documents, architecture specifications, etc. Some architecture involves a description of elements from which systems are built. Software architecture involves what? Involves the description of elements from which the systems are built. It represents interactions among those elements, patterns that guide their composition, constraints on these patterns, such as, so somebody may do research on this area. Okay, so this is how this is how you can perform testing based on these pre-code artifacts. Based on these artifacts, how you can perform testing. This is research area. Another research area is testing evolving software. Regression testing is used to test software that undergoes evolution due to the technology changes and new or modified components. We have already discussed discussion on regression testing, because nowadays every day technology is changing. So your existing software might be affected. You have to perform regression testing. How to perform regression testing? This is a new research area nowadays. Regression testing remains one of the most expensive activities performed during a software lifecycle. So how you can perform regression testing with less amount of cost? That is a new research area nowadays. Measuring effectiveness of the testing techniques. We have discussed so many testing techniques. How to measure the effectiveness of each technique? Which technique is very much efficient? How to know that thing? That is another research area. Quantitative values of effectiveness of a test set design in revealing false. You can determine the quantitative values of effectiveness of a test design in revealing false, such as by using different analytical, statistical, or empirical techniques. We also need to understand the classes of the false for which different criteria are useful. You may study the different classes of the false. Okay. Another research area is test data generation. Generating test data, that means mainly the inputs for the test cases, is often a very much labor-intensive process. To date, the available techniques generating test data automatically, they work only for toy systems. They do not scale to large systems or industrial applications. Also, it should be possible to automatically execute the test cases, not by manually. The test outputs should also be automatically analyzed. So these things are not presently performed or very rare. So you can work on this. And another area is what methods and tools you can use along with the fundamental research and empirical methods for testing. You need to develop some tools. Some tool development is also needed. An important requirement, it is an important requirement. Methods and tools, they should also be scalable to large systems, industrial systems. So many of the tools and methods developed so far, they work only on toy systems. We have seen some of the tools in the lab class, those we are using, like JMeter, JUnit, and your what you can say, Jumble, etc. Pitch. So if you can come up developing a new tool, that will be a very good contribution. Similarly, test case prioritization, different techniques you can use for test case prioritization. You can develop different techniques for test case prioritization. That is another research area. Nowadays, many optimization techniques are coming, such as particle swarm optimization, ant colonies optimization, bacteria foraging, firefly techniques, so many. So all those optimization techniques can be used for optimizing your test cases, or test case optimization, or test case minimization. That is also one of the very good research areas in software testing. If somebody is interested, they may continue the work in these areas. So we have discussed the introduction to object-oriented software testing. What are the challenges in testing object programs? How to design test suite using UML models. We have discussed also something, the different test design patterns. We have discussed some of the current research challenges. So we have taken these from these references. Thank you very much. Now any questions, please. Those who are having classes, they may leave immediately. So any classes, please. Any doubt, please. So I have highlighted some of the research areas. If somebody is interested to what to do this text thesis work or PhD thesis, may concentrate on these areas. Thank you very much. Now let's see any doubt, please.